Since July 3rd, 2021, I've done 24 videos on Netlist. I've even fostered a following by a lawyer, Nick, who brings us up to date on the proceedings relative to Micron, Samsung, and Google fighting with Netlist over their stealing of their patent and intellectual property. So I'm asked regularly to give an update, and I came across an article by a young man, Samuel Colgan, who works with Seeking Alpha, and I think it's the best summary of what has happened in 2009. And so I asked Nick to give us a summary. That's our lawyer. And then I want to share with you Samuel's article and how you can get it and how you can bring yourself up to date on what's happening with Netlist.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
This week, I'm sure you noticed a couple articles from Seeking Alpha on our number one best stock of 2023 and 24, and that is our beloved Netlist. And I wanted to hear your thoughts because I'm sure you read it.
No, I didn't. So give me a summary. I don't like pain, so I avoid it.
Well, okay. And so the first article really was about Netlist, the company. And it's struggling, right? It resells a product. There's an oversupply in the market, and they're bleeding cash. They talked about the dilution, and they talked about it's the struggle to keep the lights on. But that said, they do expect 2024 for that oversupply to evaporate, and they should be able to stop making enough money again to keep the lights on. And so, it also talked about their future patents, and that they expect with the emerging AI field that they have the right stuff that will hopefully generate money in the future. That's what that first article was about. It was pretty much a nothing article because I look at Netlist, the company itself, as maybe frosting on the cake. That's not why I bought into Netlist.
Right.
I bought the cake, and what the cake is, the lawsuits. So I do advise you to look at the second article, which had a deep dive into all of the litigation, both past. So anybody who's new to Netlist, it covers briefly what had been going on in the past, but more importantly, it's talking about all the future catalysts in the near future. And I look at this article as almost Ukraine and Russia. Okay, if I were to bet on the winning side right now, I would bet on Ukraine. Why? Because they're on the offensive. And so when we take a look at Netlist and the litigation, whether it's against Samsung or Micron or, of course, Google, they are winning. We know about the Samsung judgment that happened in East Texas. And what is Samsung doing? Well, they're on the defensive, right? They're appealing multiple aspects of the case. And what about Micron? Well, they just got, I believe, wiped out in the claims construction, which is going to be coming out any day soon. And I presume it's going to be that way because those 6 patents are the same patents that were litigated and where a jury found the observers. It was the judge going with Netlist on every one of these issues in dispute. And what does that mean? Well, it means that Micron is in big trouble here. And of course, they're going to ask to open their books to see who their customers are so they can assess the damage done to Netlist. And Micron still refuses, for whatever reason, to open their books. And they're going to be going before a judge for contempt proceedings in the next week or two. And then I could go on and on and on about new catalysts that are coming up. Lots of decisions in California, these tech, in Germany, I mean, I could go on and on and on. If you could almost post that article for the members, it really does summarize things just beautifully. And so I don't worry about the stock price. Yes, the stock went down below $2.
Did you mortgage your house like you said you were?
No, I didn't mortgage my house. But what I did was I went into my wife's savings account and I took that. She made a big mistake of allowing my signature to be as a joint account, but it's I got 2 years of her salary in Netlist, okay? Because she likes working. I like to retire. And so I'm not using my money for this. But if she did find out that she's got a zero balance, I would explain to her that there are just too many things going positive in the litigation aspect that they would have to really strike out. Right now, they would have to win on appeal on a lot of these cases. And so, therefore, I am as optimistic as can be. I have to be patient. We're still in the fifth or sixth inning. The Google case is off. It's been stayed pending this litigation with Samsung. But from what I can tell, it's all good. And if you can get Netlist at $2, oh boy, this is a stock that could go up. The writer of this second article said it was a six bagger based on his analysis, and he did some kind of number crunching on each of the litigations, with each of the companies, and he thought it was a six bagger in 2 years, really not including the Google litigation. We all know about the 912 patent, that it is seminal, and Google is just holding off what appears to be the inevitable.
Do you think this other lawsuit that Google is involved in, relative to it paying Apple, what is it, $12 billion a year to make them the primary search engine on the Apple phones? Do you think that is going to have any bearing?
Well, I know that the Attorney General's office has filed a lawsuit. I think that's what you're referring to, for antitrust on Google, right? Google owns 92.5% of the search engine. But we go back to the Microsoft antitrust action back in the Bill Gates years, 30 years ago, and they were found guilty of antitrust violations. But what happened? No, Microsoft is just as big and strong and powerful than they were before. And so I don't know really what Google is thinking about. I know that if I were Google, I would be thinking of, holy cow, they have been infringing on Netlist IP for the last 15 years. Think about that. The damages are just mind blowing. How it can take a company of, I think it was $50 billion company to a 1 trillion dollar company. And the argument, it's because of the Netlist IP. So I don't really know how you can compute the damages. Obviously, Google, by getting a stay just before they were required to open up their books. That would have been a really interesting story to inspect their servers. And so that litigation is a ways off. But there are so many catalysts. I really do believe that you should take a look at the Seeking Alpha article, because it does put things in perspective about how well Netlist is doing, how good their legal team is, how good the jurisdiction of East Texas is, and all of these catalysts that are coming up in the next 6 months is mind-blowing. And all Micron and Samsung is doing is delay, because I do believe they're on the hook and they know it. And they're just hoping that something will fall from the sky and get them off the hook. Usually, patent cases don't last this long, right? If you have a poor patent claim, it's going to be thrown out within a year. And of course, now we're getting down to the end game with Samsung and Micron. All they really have left are trials coming up. Micron's in January. Samsung's following along. Germany, they go real quick. And so within the next, I say, 6 months or a year, you're going to have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle coming together. I believe this stock, this company, is the company that everybody, I'm not a financial advisor, right? And this is not legal advice, but if there's one company that you want to uh, average at this price, this is it. I just don't believe Netlist is going to go goose egg in this litigation because they have won everything up to the present date of all this litigation. Now it's about trials. And I believe that most of these cases, 95% after claims construction, do get resolved.
This is the article Nick, our resident lawyer on Best of Us Investors, was referring to. It's written by Samuel McClellan. He's new to Seeking Alpha. As you can see, he has only 48 followers. If you're a member of Seeking Alpha, or if you would like to be, I would strongly suggest that you follow Samuel. He's young. But after you read this article, you'll understand that how sharp he is and what detail he goes into. He gives you a summary. He gives you the investment theme, the basic introduction, and he explains in great detail the cases that are being filed by Netlist against Google, Micron, and Samsung. First, he tells you about a case that Netlist actually won against SK Hynix, and then he shows you a chart that has been put together by a gentleman on StockTwits that gives almost a pictorial effect of everything that is happening. He goes through each of the cases, SK Hynix, then he goes through Micron's case, Micron's second case. He then goes through Micron's and Samsung's joint case. He goes through Samsung's case in California. Then he gives you a summary of the Samsung case that was settled and now is being appealed in Texas. And then he goes through and he gives you a projection on what the damages might be. He goes through the seventh case, which is a joint case between Samsung and Google. He then goes through the seminal case, the big one of Google, which is in Northern California and has been going since 2009. Then what he does is goes into projections on each of the cases. Well, I take that back. He then goes into the European cases and speaks to the legal fees, the management of Netlist, which, as he indicates in this chart, since 2008, their compensation has gone up from $400,000 to $3.2 million, and he brings that to your attention and questions their decisions and the way they're managing their company. This is something I spoke to at one time too. Tells you about their management, and then goes into to valuations. Says that the company is very undervalued, and then he summarizes and gives you what he believes is going to be a six-banger. He believes that all the good, bad, and ugly put to the side, that Netflix is going to walk out of this with a tremendous settlement because of the accumulation of the potential royalties that are involved in this over since 2009 in some cases, and that, as Nick pointed out, this was a $50 billion company that is now a $1.5 trillion company. And the argument is that a big part of that is due in part to the revenues that they've collected, Google, Samsung, Micron, basically illegally, and that it will come to settlement. It's just a long, drawn-out case. What I'm going to do is copy and put this in a PDF, and I will post it on my website, Best of Us Investors, and it will be available to anybody in the platinum element of our organization, of our website. And you see where you can find that is on the website. And this is what I want to do. This isn't all about Kerry and his opinions. I'm going to bring you a lot of opinions. I'm going to suggest you read some books. This is Best of Us Investors at its best.